Hello and welcome everyone to the October edition of the new contributor oriented meeting of Kubernetes project. This is a repeating meeting series, and you're here in the EMEA and APAC meeting. The same one is happening again for the US folks. You can also, if other time permits, join this meeting. We basically do this meeting every single month, and the idea is that you get an understanding of how the Kubernetes project is actually working and how we are taking care of the project and how to get into the project. Before we start out, as I mentioned, this meeting is recorded and will be published on YouTube. All meetings in the Kubernetes community abide also a code of conduct bottom. And to sum it up is basically, and it's very important, is be nice and respectful to your fellow speakers and your fellow attendees, and generally be excellent to each other. Please also use the chat if you have questions and discussions throughout the call. We will also do and there you can also basically ask questions verbally. A copy of the slides will be available on GitHub, and the link is in the meeting invite. I will not post the link in the chat right now because I also need to inform you that I have a power outage and I am hosting this meeting from a laptop with a power bank and with a cell phone, with my cell phone. So if anything goes wrong, blame it on our power provider. Yes, the purpose of the meeting is to orient you in the Kubernetes community. That basically means giving you a sense of how the community works and what is the part or what could be the part that you take in this meeting in the community. And we will basically start off with a presentation to convey information about the community, and then we will have a Q&A section where you can ask questions, and also if you can basically anyone that's watching the recording can then also benefit from your questions. All right, so and as mentioned, you can always use the chat. Who am I? Hi everyone, I'm Mario. I am part of SIGK's Infra and SIG Contrib X, and I'm the comms sub-project tech lead. I am around since roughly 2.5 years in the Kubernetes project. And yeah, I work make. All right, but we are here to track the data about our contributors via GitHub and a few other contribution tools, and we collect them in a tool that is called information about the Kubernetes contributions itself. And these stats that we pulled in there are from March of 2028,000, 86,000 contributors who made over 4 million, only been reviewed by 6,500 people with we will explore later down the road. Another visualization of how large our community is and how fast it is growing is basically the graph from the 2023 Kubernetes project journey report that shows you how the Kubernetes project evolved in the past 10 years, as we basically went from 0 to 80,000 contributors in our first 10 years. Also, the mentioned website of DevStats also holds stats for other projects as well. So you can basically have a look for any other CNCF project in there. Now, before we dive deeper into the community, you may be unfamiliar what Kubernetes is and what it does. So Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration tool. Open source means that it's made by people around the world, some of whom are paid to work on it, but many of them are only volunteers. And the code of the Kubernetes software is publicly available under an open source license that describes exactly who, when, and how the software and its source code can be used. And the cool thing is that the Kubernetes does orchestrate containers. So let's see what this basically means. So as we all know, businesses have many applications in our time. They need to run somewhere, and for example, you need to have a payroll application, a logistics application, or a company website, and we need to run them somewhere. And basically, companies have a lot of computers to run those applications on. So Kubernetes is there to enable businesses and say, hey, Kubernetes, here's the computer. I have this application and I need to run it. And you can describe various levels of details about how this application needs to be run on the or the hardware it might need. And Kubernetes will run it on a machine for you. And it will also provide some handy functionality for managing applications while it's running. For example, it can provide help for processes of updating the application to another version. And exactly how all this is done and how this all works is what Kubernetes contributors work and maintain to improve on a daily basis. So let's have a look into how the Kubernetes community structure is working. As mentioned, Kubernetes is an open source project and it's located within the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, shortly called the CNCF. The CNCF is a non-profit organization with the stated mission to make cloud native ubiquitous to the end. They support many open source projects that enable companies to run applications in the cloud. The CNCF also provides a variety of guidance and support to the project, including legal support, code of conduct, help with logos, copyright, providing resources that we can basically use for the project. The pyramid below the CNCF basically represents the structure of the Kubernetes community. At the top, interfacing most with the CNCF and presiding over various topics that affect the entire community and the project is the steering committee. This is a body of 7 members who are elected by the Kubernetes org members, and we will shortly go in a bit about what org membership means. Also, for your information, 3 of those individuals have been selected like 3 weeks ago, because there's always a selection every year, and usually it's 4 people in 1 year and 3 people in the other year that are being voted on. With a project so large, there are many different concepts within the project that need unique skills and knowledges. For example, the way the Kubernetes knows where workloads are run to, and that's one area of expertise. Meanwhile, we have also another project that is purely there for maintaining the Kubernetes documentation, where different expertise is needed. And people who work on a specific area of the project gather together in what's called a special interest group, or SIG. These break up the work of building and maintaining the Kubernetes project into smaller chunks. Sometimes, however, there are areas that need attention that are both very significant and cut across SIGs. And these basically are split in things that we call working groups. A working group is usually temporary. It's created to address a specific issue and then is disappearing once the issue is sufficiently resolved and is basically addressed by ongoing SIG work. The defining characteristic of a working group is they generally don't own a code or a feature, at least not long term. A working group either is or will be owned by one or several SIGs by the time until it dissolves, unless a working group transmutes into a SIG, and this also sometimes is happening. But even the work of one SIG can be quite broad in scope. There can be hundreds of contributors to a single SIG. So SIGs further break down their works into sub-projects. And currently we have 24 special interest groups, 7 working groups, and 3 committees in the Kubernetes community. And I didn't talk about committee, so steering would be one committee. We have a code of conduct and one additional committee. And we can basically also further group the SIGs by their scope and working groups as well. So some of the groups operate on a project level and all other work in the project depends basically on them. Some groups work on a horizontal level, meaning that they have technical focus that is both deep and broad and own core functionality of the project from an architecture perspective. The vertical groups have been deep specific technical focus that depends on the work of the horizontal groups. And of course, both horizontal and vertical groups depend on the work of the project groups. So basically here you can see a diagram of all of the SIGs and working groups that are currently active in the Kubernetes project. And to call just out a few ones would be SIG release that are doing the releases and docs that you might be familiar. And they both operate on a project scope level. So they are generally there. Another one would be, for example, KDS SIG Infra, that is basically providing the infrastructure. So you may have not known it, and you probably, but you have probably encountered, for example, the work of SIG API machinery and SIG auth before. Those are considered to be horizontal groups. In the vertical groups, you can also find a lot of familiar concepts like autoscaling, scheduling, networking, node. And you might want to come back to this diagram later when you are exploring the groups, where to contribute, and also feel free to ask about questions about these in the Q&A or in the chat. We are now going towards how and why contribute. So now basically you learned how everything is structured, and it's not small. And now let's find out how you best would fit in those environment. There are many reasons for people for contributing to the Kubernetes community. For some, their job requires contributing. There are also contributors a community on a purely volunteer base. There are also those who they also do extra work for the community outside. I basically see myself. So why they may want to grow a specific skill for their resume, or they want to meet people working in the industry, or they just like to work on technology that they like and that they use on a daily basis. And sometimes folk are just like being part of a community and work towards a common goal. You should also think why you want to contribute. As you get more and more engagement with the community, you will also get more out of it if you can clearly tell people what you want to get out of it. If others know who you are and what you want and what you can do, they can more easily help to find you work and opportunities and basically create connections that will benefit you in the long run. Regardless of why you're interested in contributing, you're probably wondering what it means to be a contributor. So to answer this question, it means to be a contributor. Let's first find out what a contribution is. Any work that you are doing to support the Kubernetes project is welcomed and valued and is a contribution to the community. That sounds really broad and really vague, right? And but it's really important because there's a lot of work that is being done behind the scenes to make the project run, and that's a lot of things is not on GitHub. That said, here are some examples that you can basically see on what counts as a contribution. For example, did you start by posting a hello message in the Kubernetes new contributor Slack channel in the Kubernetes Slack? That's the contribution. Have you commented on an issue or a proposal for a new feature to share your thoughts on opinions? That's a contribution. Even watching or attending this meeting right now is a contribution. So you already did your first contribution of the day. As the community, we try to acknowledge and appreciate contributions to the community in many forms. But if so many vague and varied things can contribute. There are varying levels of being a contributor. You might remember our slide earlier when we mentioned contributors and reviewers. This slide basically dives into more detail of what those terms mean. Starting at the bottom, anyone can be a contributor. If you do any of the things mentioned on the previous slide and more, you're already a contributor. If you're a contributor to the community in any way, then you might be what is called a non-member contributor. This means that you pop in the community and contribute likely in small and disconnected ways. But if you really want to get involved in the community, you might want to drive towards the organization membership. An org member is basically referred to as a member of the Kubernetes organization on GitHub. Being an org member gives you higher privileges to interact with tools contributors use to do their work, like our probot that helps us in GitHub to apply labels and configure issues using GitHub comments. Having org membership is also a sign that you are active and an engaged contributor who intends to contribute in more structured ways within the community, and you're not just picking up a single issue or asking a one-off question, and you are probably developing expertise in a certain area of the project, and you might be contributing to one or more sub-projects or 6 in a consistent, measurable way. And then you're basically ready to become an org member when the contributors you work with are familiar with you. They will basically vouch for you and sponsor your request for the membership. There's a question in the chat. What is the idea behind LTS working group? Will there be a Kubernetes long-term version separated from Edge one? The idea of LTS, the LTS working group, is to figure out if the community is able to release a long-term supported Kubernetes version that is not only on the current version -2 limitations, and basically a couple of vendors already released something on their own for their own forks, and now the community is talking about how to do this in a more structured way and in a more Kubernetes project focused way, so that the project is basically organizing this. But this is an ongoing discussion, right? There's no solution yet found, or no way forward yet decided. Beyond becoming an org member, there are increasing levels of trust. and ownership and responsibility. So the more you go up the ladder, the more you basically encounter. And once you've engaged in an area for a while, you might have enough knowledge to help to review contributions or pull requests from other contributors. Eventually, you might be trusted enough to have the final say on whenever some code is merged and a contribution is accepted and displayed on something like the Kubernetes IO website. Then you basically move to be, excuse me, an approver. And if you're becoming a strong expert in a specific area who is highly trusted and regarded for your expertise, you might take on new responsibilities, and you might become the person to come to, where people basically come to you, and you might lead questions to help triage sessions and work in other areas. And at this point, you're basically becoming a sub-project owner. If you're an expert who starts leading things in that area, you might also take on the responsibility for various resources within that area and how they relate to other parts of the project. For example, you might take the responsibility for a README file, defining a whole sub-project, which is where people basically go to learn about it, and you might become the contact person who triages requests from other parts of the project. And this basically makes you a sub-project lead. And if you're leading a whole sub-project, that's already a considerable chunk of work within a SIG, and you're probably interacting and collaborating with leads of other sub-projects, and then you're developing a pretty strong sense of the mission objective and the ongoing work of a SIG. And at this point, you're basically becoming a chair or a tech lead for an entire SIG. If you remember our community structure, you might be wondering if becoming a member of the steering committee would be a next step, but steering is separated from this. Steering is basically an elected position, and anyone can run for steering at the point when they got org membership. But of course, the chance that you're being elected to become a steering committee member is once people know you and basically recognize you. This letter might seem like a true path to contribution, but basically there's a reminder that there's not a single path for anything. Most contributors basically end up contributing into multiple areas of the project. Some people even develop ownership in different SIGs at the same time. Just because you're learning and contributing in one SIG doesn't mean that you can check out another SIG. And also remember, most of the contributors are at least partially volunteers, and almost everyone contributing is doing it because they love what they do it. So look around and find what you like to do. So now that we covered what is the road and how to get there, the next step would be basically how we start contributing. Basically, easy answer: join a SIG. And make yourself useful to the SIG, and find a SIG that basically suits your interest, and just getting involved there. That also does not necessarily mean to pick up an issue and writing code immediately. Often getting involved means attending meetings, reading notes on and existing issues, and just in general get a start of and a feeling of what the project does. And of course, is basically the easiest way is to go to our Slack, join the Kubernetes Slack, and then join the SIG channel that is there, and also basically join mailing lists. So we have, for the different parts and the different SIGs, have different mailing lists where they also share information. And let's explore how you can learn about SIGs. So where can you start learning? First, check up check out the Kubernetes github.com/Kubernetes/community repository on GitHub. This repository, you can basically find folders containing information about each SIG and each working group, where you can find all of the information. When you click on a SIG folder in the community repo, it will basically show you folders README. At the top of this file, you'll find a brief summary of the SIG's focus area and likely a link to their more detailed team charter. And this will also give you a broad and high-level idea of what the SIG does. Below the summary of the group, you'll find information about when the group is meeting, and attending meetings is often a great way to learn more about who is in the group and what they are currently working on and how they are working. Attending meetings is a great way to start to getting known to the group, if you're interested in working with them so that they know you. And we have some questions. How did you start contributing and how to find a SIG according to your skills? Yeah, so basically, the easiest way to start contributing is, or how I did start contributing was, I was interested. I know that I did a lot of infrastructure work, and I basically joined then the SIG infra meeting and stuck around in the meeting. Took over some note taking, and eventually did some first contributions. Then I went to the contributor and Caslin basically some more folks for the com sub projects, and yeah, took over more and more work. And the last thing that I took over was being the host for this new contributor orientation meeting for the so the other question is, will this PowerPoint and the recording be shared after the meeting? The PowerPoint presentation will be uploaded to GitHub, and the link to the presentation is also inside of the meeting invite. And the recording is you can always find on the Kubernetes YouTube channel. There you can basically find all of the recorded meetings. All right, where were we? Below the information of the group, how to join the meeting, and there you can basically go ahead and have a look when the meeting is taking place. You will also find information about the SIG's leadership. Most SIGs have both a concept of chairs and tech leads. These leaders are the same level of trust and responsibility, but likely own different types of tasks and supporting the SIG. Chairs do more project management type of work in SIGs, while tech leads tend to do more architectural leadership, like managing repositories and certain kinds of technical decisions and processes. Each SIG basically defines the specifics of this role by themselves, and different parts also fall under this. You'll also find contact information for the SIG there. Most SIGs in Kubernetes do a lot of asynchronous communication because we are a global working project. So basically, everything is happening in Slack, and you can join there by visiting slack.kds.io. Each SIG also has a mailing list where you can find important announcements for contributors to a SIG will also go on the mailing list. The mailing list will also be invite you to all of the SIG meetings via a calendar invite. So if you join the mailing list, you get automatically all of the invites there. You'll also find information where to find issues and PRs related to the SIG, and other informations like GitHub teams that are part of the SIG in the README file. Also, everyone that is interested in the Kubernetes development should also join the dev Google group. There is a mailing list that is basically called KDev. And this mailing list is the prior communication channel for general contributor related informations. Checking out each SIG folder will also show you lots of information about specific SIGs. But what if you want to find information about all of the SIGs, all of the meetings? The community maintains a website that is called kds.dev. And within kds.dev, we have a page with all of the information about all of the public community meetings, which is /calendar. And this will basically list you all of the upcoming meetings, and it will also bring up a new window if you want to add the meeting to your own calendar. And this is a great way to get information about a SIG. When the meeting is, when all of the different SIGs are meeting. And now that you know how the community is structured and where you can basically find information, you might want to look for the stuff where people are actually looking for things that are being solved. And we reach out to the different SIG leads every month and ask them to share any current opportunities that they would like you to, where you can work on. And to also come back to the question that was asked, how to find a SIG according to your skill. The main thing is that you basically need to go to the different SIG charters and see where your interest is basically lying, or you can basically find it maybe in the evergreen opportunities. The evergreen opportunities are basically always available, and they just come up every now and then. And for basically one of the main things, and that sounds not as glamorous, is for example meeting note taking. This is always available, so we need always note takers for meetings. You don't have to have any prior knowledge, experience, and just join a meeting and volunteer to be a note taker there. For SIG Contrib X, we are always looking for, in the comms project, for people that are writing Spotlight blogs. A Spotlight blog is basically, hey, I want to republish a blog post on kubernetes.io and kds.dev, where you do an interview with the SIG chairs and SIG leads, and then just write down what the SIG is doing. And then you also have a public publication in the Kubernetes.io blog, which is also nice because your name will be linked to this. Also, we are always looking for people that join the Kubernetes Contributor Summit stuff. It's 2 times per year, and it's basically our in-person meeting, and it's happening at KubeCon Europe and KubeCon US. The only requirement there is that you need to be an org member to work on this. SIG docs always have evergreen opportunities, which is PR reviews. They have a PR Wrangler Shadow program, so you can basically quickly move towards becoming a reviewer there, so that everyone can review PRs. And they have a meeting that is happening on the first Tuesday of the month at 10:30 UTC. And this is the new contributor meet and greet, where they will also share more information. Evergreen opportunities are great. They represent work that always needs to be doing, and which is like well defined, but a lot of work is also a one-off style, an issue that needs fixing or work on a new feature. Many of these tasks require certain skills to complete, And you might see an open request that requires a skill you want to develop and think you should pick up this task to learn. But that's hard. If tasks were easy for someone that is already in the SIG to do it, they wouldn't open the request and do it themselves. And many requests require a skill that is either the community have not developed the skill or they don't have those skills. Or they have the people, but the people are busy and can't pick up more work, including helping other peoples. But basically, if you're coming to the Kubernetes community with existing skills like a certain programming language or specific technical skills like Linux networking expertise or a certain cloud provider, then this task could be a great opportunity. So this is always depending on what you are able to do. So we are unfortunately not able to teach people how to write stuff. That's the main problem there. So because of this, always be aware of good first issue. So we have a couple of things that basically require a certain skill, but we also have a couple of things that help you with or where you can also already see what might fit you. So SIG Contrib X, for example, we are currently looking for someone that can help us maintain the website, which is kts.dev. And the requirement that we have is that you have skills with Hugo and Doxy. And for the mentoring program management, we are looking for people that help set up and support the execute the group mentoring program. And we need organization skills in this, planning and communication skills. And we also need people to keep track with the various mentoring programs we work with, like LFX, Summer of Code, and so on. And there we require that you are familiar with the Kubernetes community and some program management and communication skills. SIG Docs currently needs people for reviewing blogs. Basically to review our blog post that we are publishing. I see that a couple of folks put into the chat that they love to contribute and would love to work on the website. So the best thing to do this is basically join the Slack channel that is SIG Contrib X, and there we can basically have a chat about this. I would basically stop at this point to open up for questions. One question is there a requirement to know Google Cloud? No, because Kubernetes is not vendor locked in and only running on Google Cloud. Even the Kubernetes build environment is not single cloud, is actually multi-cloud, and we are stretched across AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure, and Fastly, and Oracle. So there's no vendor-specific requirement that we have. Any other question until now? And there was the first disconnect for me. Nice. Give me 1 second to share the screen again. Um, Give me a moment. Um, from the present view. No, this one. All right. Let's go back to this. There was another question. How is the Kubernetes release cycle? How is the Kubernetes release cycle working? So basically, we have usually 3 releases per year, and there's a release website where you can basically see what the plan is for next release. There's always a release team formed around, and a release lead is being voted or nominated to take over the next release, and then people can basically apply to be guests and like communication towards the next release, and so that you can basically eventually become a sub lead in a part of the release and eventually become the release lead. And it's a well-defined process with already defined when there's merging is stopped and stuff like this. So we have a fixed process on how everything is working from a release thing. And SIG release is also always requirements to the folks. And you can always apply for the release shadow program, which you can find the information in the SIG release charter. There's always a form where you can basically apply to become a shadow of for the different parts for release. The good first issue trap. So a common contributor pitfall is falling into the good first issue trap. The scenario goes like: you're a new prospecting contributor and you're excited to make your mark on the community. You find an issue that is labeled good first issue in GitHub, and you think, hey, great, I claim this issue and write some code, and I have contributed to Kubernetes. Let's back up a step. Once you picked up a good first issue, how are you going to complete it? I mentioned earlier that the Kubernetes community uses tools like Prowlbot to help manage issues. Are you familiar with the bot? It's fine if you're not. Maybe you will start writing code. Those reviewers, approvers, and owners we mentioned will appear to make sure the issue has the right labels and stuff on it. Once you've written your code, you'll also need to get their attention to review your PR. And remember, there are a lot of more contributors than reviewers, as we saw. And when you make your PR, the reviewers would also automatically be assigned. But what if there are issues in your code? You might need to go back and forth with the reviewers on GitHub. Are you comfortable with using comments and pull requests and see it through? Let's put it this way. And most good first issues that get picked up by new non-member contributors never make it to completion. The code never gets checked in, and the community has all those stale issues and PRs sitting around for work we really needed done, but the person got lost and ended up abandoning their contribution halfway, and then those reviewers and approvers and owners have to go through the process of triaging the issue and opening it again, or see what's left within it and what can be done. And you can basically avoid this trap by joining a SIG and sticking with it. When you know the people you're working with and the goals you're working towards, you can be a valuable part of everything and not just doing the work, but making sure the work basically gets done. Yeah, and the idea also behind this is that everyone loves if you're doing something, and the main thing that we basically want is that you stick around and you get benefit out of this, and that you know the people, and that's it's just a lot of work and a lot of to get into. And the easiest way is, and the best way is to join Slack or to join the meetings. There's another question. I want to contribute, but I need to clone the entire code base. However, if I do, it won't work on my laptop. Any tips for solving this? So we have the new contributor. Slack channel where you can basically ask questions, and we also have the k8s.dev website where you have the an installing guideline. But I would basically again refer to first figure out where you want to work on, and basically start joining SIG meetings and talk to people, because then you automatically get people that know you and are more interested if they see that you're engaged in the community to help you. Because if you're just a name in Slack that asks a question and disappears and no feedback comes forth, that's basically yeah, the people might not be seem to be helpful, because this happened a lot in the past, right? So they spend time investing in people, and then no one is coming back. So I would basically recommend first to stuck around the project and that people recognize you. There was another question, and for the information regarding the question, we have a recording. A recording of this meeting will be uploaded, and you can watch the recording basically on YouTube. We already have at YouTube, so if you search for the Kubernetes YouTube channel, we already have the recording from the last month there, which is more or less similar content. And if you have any questions, ask in new contributors in the Kubernetes Slack itself. That's the easiest way. Or you join the meeting that is happening tonight. So for my tonight at 5 p.m. It's in kubernetes.dev/calendars, where it's basically we will have the same meeting, but for less focused times. Our of information and orientation. When you join your SIG first meeting, you will probably to be for day-to-day work, and this doesn't mean that you should not join on these meetings and watching the process in action. You might mean that you feel left out, and most time don't wait to ask questions, speak up in the chat, ask in or some Slack channel. They all they are really, really people. They really look to focus to also big folks. We have that's my Go skill. I'm a really, really bad Go developer, but I still contribute to the Kubernetes project in other means than writing code. And also, it might not mean that you need to stick to this, right? It's a flowing process, and you might end up in a different part of the project that you originally. Also, it gives you to see more areas and gives you more impact, and people also recognize you more if they know you, that you're sticking around. So thanks for attending this meeting. Thanks for your interest. Thanks for the that you want to contribute to the Kubernetes project. Join us. Here are again a lot of the resources listed. Basically, getting started means learn the basic tools, check out the links, and refer to them if you get lost, and questions and any more questions from anyone? Tuesday, and hopefully see each one of you in a future SIG meeting. Thanks for sticking around. There's one more question. How could I add myself to the SIG contracts? You basically just go in Slack. Slack.kds.dev, and then search for the contracts channel. That's the way. All right. Then have a beautiful rest of the week.